Hello and welcome back. In this tutorial I'm going to show you a technique that you can use to change somebody's hair color in Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to go ahead and just get started. The first thing that you need to do obviously is to select a picture that you want to change the color of somebody's hair. And you can either change the color of their whole head, their whole hair, their whole head of hair, or just a section. And I think I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do both. And I'll start with the whole head. So the first thing that you want to do is open up your picture in Adobe Photoshop, and then one thing that I always like to do is make a copy of the original picture so that we have an original copy that we can go back to if for some reason the copy that we're working off of gets damaged. That shouldn't be a problem here because we're going to add adjustment layers in order to achieve this effect. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and grab my zoom tool from my toolbar, and I'm just going to zoom in on her head. Okay? And that's just because that's the area that we're working with, okay? So, excuse me. Next thing that we want to do is we need to make a selection of her hair. So what we'll do is we'll grab our quick selection tool, and probably your magic wand tool is going to be on top. So if you need to grab that quick selection tool, what you'll do is go over to your toolbar here, and you'll click and hold, and then select that quick selection tool. You can adjust the size of the quick selection tool up here. I'm going to go ahead and keep it fairly small. And I'm just going to click and drag around her hair and just try to get most of it here. And this doesn't have to be extremely accurate because I think what I'm going to do, and I'll show you here in a second, I'll just wait for that step 1 second. We'll get this part of her hair. Okay, and now as you can see, I've selected parts of her face that we don't want selected. So in order to get rid of those, you can press Alt on your keyboard and then click and drag those parts away. Okay. 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 All right, that should be pretty good for now. The next thing that I want to do is go up to Select, and then down to Refine Edge. Excuse me. All right, and as you can see, there's a few different modes that you can do here. I usually like to do this red overlay mode. And then once I select that, I can go ahead and click off of it. And what we want to do is we want to select this little brush here. And what we can do is kind of go around the edges, and that will it'll find the little pieces of hair that we missed, or it will unselect pieces of her face that we do not want. So what we can do is we'll just click around the edge there, and you can use your bracket key on the keyboard in order to make that size a little bigger, or the size is also up here. So what we can do is just kind of, with that brush, go around the edge, and that should help our selection a little bit. Okay. And I'm just going to go quick. If you use a little smaller brush, sometimes it works a little bit better, but since I'm going quick, I'm going to just do it like this. And I'll kind of soften the edges around those pieces of hair too. Okay. All right. And see, that deleted all that hair right there, or got rid of our selection. So what you can do is click and hold on that, and there's an Erase Refinements tool. And you can kind of go back in and, with that, click those areas. And sometimes that'll get it back for you. Okay, I'm going to go with that. That's not perfect, but I'm going to go with that for now because, like I said, I'm trying to go a little bit quicker for you guys. Okay, so now we have this selection. It's gotten most of the hair and left out most of the areas that we don't want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add an adjustment layer above this. So we'll go down to this adjustment layers area and click on it, and click a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and that adds that layer right there. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to select this colorize box in our adjustment layer, and it's only going to colorize the areas that we had selected a second ago. I'm going to bring the saturation up a little bit, and as you can see, this color is set to red right now, so I'm changing her color to this red color. Okay, and I like to up the saturation so you can really see what you're doing. And as you can see, this area was not very good. So I'll go back in and fix that a little in a little bit. So let's say we wanted to make her hair a nice red color. So what we would do is we'd probably select that red up there and we'd make it a little darker because this is just too light, okay? So maybe something like that, and then maybe we take the saturation back down a little bit. Something like that. And if it's too strong, you can also go and select this hue and saturation adjustment layer and take the opacity down. So if you take it down to 50%, you just get a very slight red, or let's try 75%, and that's looking pretty good. I think I want to bring the lightness up in that layer again, though, just a little bit, maybe about like that, and then I think I'll go back down in my opacity to maybe let's try 60, a little middle range there. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to fix this area. So what we can do is we can click on our mask on our adjustment layer right there, and we can select our eraser tool from the toolbar. Go up to the top and you can change the size and the hardness. Set the hardness to 0 and go ahead and make the size a little bit bigger too, because we're just going to kind of click around the edge to kind of just soften those edges, since our refine tool didn't do a very good job. And if you start getting too much of the blonde back, you can go back in with a very soft brush and do the same thing around these edges. And I'll just do it right now to show you. If you select your brush, go up to the top, make sure that the hardness is set to 0, and you can brush back in these areas as well. So I'm going to make my brush a little bigger, and I'm just going to brush around the edges and just make sure that it stays soft, so it looks more realistic. Okay. Something like that. I'm selecting my eraser again and just touching up the areas that I think need it. Okay, now that's not perfect. If I had more time, I could zoom in and go into some of these areas, make new selections, and add them to my my mask. Okay. So that's pretty much the basic way that you do it. The next thing that if you wanted to do just a section of her hair, let's say that we wanted to make it green or something, what we would do is we would move that slider over to, well, let's do blue. Okay, we'd move that slider over like that, and then we would erase away the areas that we didn't want if we just wanted to do a section of her hair. Okay, so what we'll do, and there's like her forehead, we can erase those out a little bit. So actually, I'm going to do a Control Z, because I think what I want is just this one little piece of hair in the front. So we can just kind of use our artistic sense here and imagine what area, like if she were to have dyed a little section of her hair. And we'll just do that one little section. And so it's kind of like just a color splash in her hair. Or maybe you just want like just one little area, kind of like that. So maybe she just dyed these two little areas of her hair. Okay, so that's how you do that. You can just kind of erase away the color. Like I said, spend a little bit more time than I did with this and make it look really good, but it's very easy to do. A good way to do it is with that Refine Edge tool and with the Edit Refinements brush inside of there. So play around with it. I hope it all works well for you, and I hope you learned something from this tutorial. Please find me on Facebook and Twitter, and thanks for watching.